Hey YouTube, what is up? So this week we are gonna transform a colored image into a black and white image by not just hitting that enable black and white button. So let's just roll that intro and let's start with it. So on the screen you can see an image from a shoot I've had yesterday, and one of the models asked me today like, hey, can you perhaps convert an image you've retouched for me in black and white and send it over to me so that I can hang it on my wall, because black and white will look better in my house instead of color. So that's what we're gonna do. Now it's not this image, this is a recent shot image. But because I just wanted to show you that it's more than just checking a checkbox that says enable black and white, I will be transforming this image and show you how I will transform it. I'm not gonna do a whole retouch, it's just showing you the black and white technique. So this one is shot, as you can see, with two lights. So this one is shot with one light coming from the left side and one light coming from the right side. They were both strip banks with a gel attached to it, red and blue, and they both had a grid on it to focus the light hitting her, and yeah, that's what happened in this shot. Now what most people do is, when they want to convert an image to black and white, they just tap this little icon, enable black and white, and that's it. They export it and it's done. I'm just gonna disable the annotation so I don't see my notes on there. So for most people, this part is done. It's a black and white, it's done. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna export this file out into Photoshop. So I'm gonna hit process. Photoshop will start up, and when Photoshop has started up, it looks like this. Now first things first, we got the background layer. I'm not gonna do any skin retouching or anything in that sort. I'm just gonna show you how I would convert it. So I start from my camera raw. So I do enable the checkbox, enable black and white, or in Lightroom it is black and white in the HSL slide. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna introduce some curves. Now a curve is nothing more than a representation of your light. So on the left side, over here, we've got the shadows, and over there, we've got the highlight. So you can already guess that in the middle, we got the midtones. So if we drag the shadows up, we lift everything up. If we drag the shadows to the right, we make everything darker. The same with the highlights. If we drag it to the left, we make everything brighter. If we drag it down, we make everything darker. Now, everybody should know that when you want to introduce contrast in an image, you just create an S-curve in an image. Now, also, most people, they do just one curves and then that's done. So we want to do multiple layers. So I'm gonna remove this one again, or better yet, I'm gonna reset it. So resetting it can be done by hitting this reset button, or another way is when you got a dot on your line, you just go on it and pull it out of the line. So when I got multiple dots, I just go, I keep it, I drag it, and I let go. Now a quick tip, if you have multiple dots on your line, by just hitting minus and plus on your numeric keypad, you can change with the keypad between all the dots. So you can see now it's on the bottom. If I hit plus, it's going up. If I hit another plus, it's going up again. Also, you can do subtle changes by just using the little arrows on your keyboard. That way you have a little bit more precise control of everything. Now resetting it again. Resetting that again. There we go. So this is the starting point. Now, for me, the image is a little bit dark. So what I'm going to do is lift everything up, especially in the shadows. And I want to lift up the shadows in the face part. So I'm going to create another curves. Take the eyedropper. It's not really an eyedropper, but the hand with the arrows up and down, like this one. And I'm going to click on the face, drag it up. Now, I don't want it to be visible on the entire image. I want it to be visible just in the face part. So I'm gonna invert my layer mask by hitting Ctrl I or Command I if you're on a Mac. And we're gonna fill this layer with black. So there are some ways you can do it. You can go like to edit, fill, change it to black, hit OK, and then the layer mask is filled with black. And we will be painting with a brush, a normal brush, white on the face. Now make sure that you have a soft brush, that you don't get any edges when you're painting. And just slowly, with a flow of 10%, just start building the light levels up where you want them to be brighter. So this way, the legs and the upper body and the face have the same light toning. So you can see the difference. Because as we all know, in an image, the attention goes the most to the brightest part. And that's what we want to prevent. So this is just one step we've done. Now that we have reached this point, so this one was brighter. Let's double click on the layer, call it brighter 1. This one is brighter upper body. And then the next step is creating some curves and playing around with some toning. So like we can do this, we can lift the shadows up. We can even lift the highlights up if you want to that really punch film noir effect on the image. And then another thing you can do is, because we have crushed the blacks in this one, take that one and lift up the shadows a little bit and put points on those lines so that we don't have any shifts in that. Now, if you can see from the beginning to this, it already has a lot more punch instead of just a flat black and white image. Now, these are some of the things you can do. You can also play around with levels. So it is the same. This is a representation of your light. So if you drag to the right, more shadow. If you drag to the left, more light. You get the idea by now. And over here, you make everything brighter, everything darker. This is the opposite from this one. And if you want to play around with it, like for instance, you want to create that, I call it negative black. And that's created by just dragging this point up, dragging this point down again. And then you get that faded black and white look. So with the S-curve, just drag up the shadows a bit, lock all the other points in, and you're good to go. Now, again, it's personal. Like here, you can see that you're totally out of the gamma. So you want to prevent this because now you're just, messing everything up. You just hold it, drag it out, and it's gone again. So a quick tip about converting it to black and white. So brightness, the face brighter, some really punchy shadows and highlights. We can even reduce this. Another one where we lifted the shadows. This one is doing nothing. It was just for demonstration, so I'm gonna remove it. You can remove a layer by hitting backspace or dragging it down to the tray, to the garbage can. And then the last one was the negative black. Now I don't like the negative black because it's too much, but keep in mind, if we do an effect that is too much, we just reduce the opacity to a certain point that you're okay with. Now, most people, they go here, they click the arrow down, they drag. Quick tip is if you hover with the mouse or the pen over the word, you can just click, drag, and it will automatically adjust. It's the same with the flow and stuff. Just go over the word, drag it, and it will adjust it. It's one step less for adjusting it. So I'm gonna remove the faded black and white because I don't like it. Now what I could do is brighten up the bottom. So I'm gonna introduce another curve, take the eyedropper, drag it up. But now you can see, as mentioned before, we see everything. I just want to lift up the shadows at the floor part. I'm gonna invert the layer mask by hitting Ctrl Command I. And for this mask, I'm gonna use a gradient. So we got this gradient on the left side. And what you want to be using is the basics one and the second one. The second one is also your front color going to a transparent color. And then you just make sure that you're on this gradient. You just drag up, and there we go. So now we have applied a gradient, and the white part will have the effect completely. The gray part will have the effect slightly, and the black will have no effect from the adjustment we just did. So I'm gonna lower it a bit. So I'm just changing to the move tool and hitting numbers on my keypad, and then it adjusts the opacity on this side. So I'm gonna go like for 70-ish, 50-ish, that's good. For removing the tripod, a quick tip, just use a selection feather. Make sure that the feather is set to 0. And then just make a selection, hit Shift F5 or Edit, Fill, and make sure that you select Content Aware. Hit OK. It cannot match it because there's nothing on it, so the first things we have to do is make a merge layer. So hit Ctrl Shift Alt E. I know a lot of shortcuts today. So select it, Shift F5, fill it with Content Aware. And let's see, yeah, it does it magic perfectly. Let's do it again on this part. There we go. Now you could go in with a clone stamp and fix it manually, or just use the normal spot healing. Just go over the lines. And it's gone. Nobody will notice. So that's just how I convert my black and whites. Now these levels, not levels though, these curves, they are dependent on your starting image. So that's something to keep in mind. But once you got a certain vibe you like in your images, you can play around with them. Now I like it even a little bit more darker. So I'm gonna introduce another curve. I have to put it on top of everything. Then I'm just gonna lower everything down. Create a little bit of contrast in the image by using that S curve. If you're really crazy, you can even draw your S curve on the image. But then again, that's something, yeah, totally personal. I don't use that at all. I normally use the little hand dropper, or I just guess in which tonal range my point will be. So that's it for this week. Hope you had something from it, and feel free to show me your black and white images. And if you got questions, let them know below. Don't forget to subscribe, and then I'll see you when I see you.